What would happen if World War III broke out? The spark expanded. It begins quietly, almost imperceptibly. A satellite goes dark. A power grid flickers and fails in a major city. Communication networks experience brief, inexplicable outages. At first, the world assumes it is a glitch, another minor technological hiccup. But the pattern emerges rapidly: simultaneous blackouts across multiple continents, followed by anomalies in banking systems, transportation grids, and emergency services. Governments scramble to respond. By the third day, intelligence agencies confirm what everyone has feared: a coordinated cyber attack of unprecedented scale. The origin remains uncertain. Some analysts blame rogue AI systems developed for military purposes. Others suspect state-sponsored groups seeking to destabilize rivals. Panic spreads as citizens realize this is not an isolated incident. The global infrastructure humans depend upon is under siege. Diplomacy struggles to respond. Treaties, alliances, and international laws offer little guidance against attacks that originate in the digital realm. World leaders convene emergency sessions via secure holographic communication. Yet even these are fraught with uncertainty. Can the communication network itself be trusted? Intelligence reports are incomplete, delayed, or manipulated. Decisions must be made in hours or even minutes without full knowledge. As tensions rise, mistrust becomes contagious. Nations accuse one another of orchestrating the attacks. Trade routes are blocked, ports are closed. Military mobilizations are ordered, and civilians are told to prepare for worst-case scenarios. Cities begin enforcing martial law preemptively. The streets, once vibrant, empty as citizens retreat indoors. Fear is palpable, a living, breathing presence that settles over every nation. Initial conflicts flare as localized skirmishes erupt. Nations strike suspected perpetrators preemptively. Borders are closed, airspace restricted. Autonomous drones patrol skies and borders, while AI-managed defense systems track movement and anticipate attacks. Traditional diplomacy falters. Automated military systems act faster than any human negotiator can intervene. The first strikes are devastating. Missile defenses intercept many attacks, but hypersonic weapons, smart drones, and AI-directed strikes overwhelm them. Critical infrastructure is destroyed. Water treatment plants fail, cutting off clean water. Power plants collapse, plunging cities into darkness. Hospitals operate on backup generators, overwhelmed by injured civilians and technical failures. Food supply chains grind to a halt, panic spreads. Stockpiles of essential resources disappear almost overnight as citizens rush to gather supplies. Refugees begin moving en masse, straining already fragile regions. Cities closest to conflict zones resemble war zones within days. Looting, chaos, and desperate attempts at survival dominate the landscape. Law enforcement struggles to maintain control, often outmatched by both human desperation and automated threats. The psychological impact is immediate. People cannot comprehend the scale of destruction or the speed at which technology, once their servant, is now a weapon. Social order phrase. Trust evaporates. Individuals must make instantaneous decisions that determine life or death. Communities fragment as fear becomes instinctual. Even families experience strain as survival instincts clash with loyalty, morality, and empathy. Simultaneously, nations deploy early response AI systems to assess, predict, and counter threats. These algorithms act decisively, sometimes lethally. Decisions that would have once involved careful human deliberation are now calculated in milliseconds. Defense systems identify perceived threats and neutralize them, often without confirmation. Civilian casualties mount as automated systems interpret movement, energy signatures, or electronic footprints as hostile intent. By the end of the first month, it is clear: World War III is not a conventional conflict. No longer confined to battlefields or military zones, the war has infiltrated cities, homes, and lives. Every individual is affected, whether by power outages, disrupted supplies, or direct attacks. Survival becomes both personal and systemic, dependent on understanding the algorithms, predicting AI responses, and navigating a rapidly collapsing world order. The human psyche struggles under the new reality. Anxiety, paranoia, and uncertainty dominate daily life. People wake each day unsure if their city will survive, if their food and water will remain available, or if automated defense systems will misidentify them as threats. The world has become simultaneously hyper-connected and terrifyingly isolated. Civilization continues to exist, but it is brittle, fragile, and on the brink. In these first weeks, the foundations of society begin to crumble. Governments lose control over distant regions. Militaries are stretched thin, unable to respond to multiple threats simultaneously. Cities operate under emergency protocols that prioritize survival over law, morality, or ethics. And all the while, AI and autonomous systems, originally created to protect humanity, now dictate the tempo, scale, and severity of destruction. What began as a quiet disruption escalates into a global crisis. Humanity realizes that World War III is not a war that can be contained, negotiated, or won through traditional means. It is a war of technology, speed, and survival, where every moment counts and every decision carries the weight of life and death. The spark has ignited, and the world will never be the same again. The technology of destruction, expanded World War III, is unlike any conflict humanity has ever experienced. The first difference is speed. Decisions that once took hours or days are now made in milliseconds by AI systems controlling missile launches, troop movements, and cyber operations. Entire cities fall before human officials can even understand what has happened. At the heart of the war is automation. Autonomous drones patrol skies and streets, scanning for movement and targeting perceived threats without hesitation. These machines do not sleep, do not hesitate, and do not negotiate. Once deployed, they follow algorithms with lethal precision. Cities that once thrived on human activity become ghost towns overnight, as drones and AI-controlled defense systems enforce martial law, whether officially sanctioned or not. Missiles move faster than the eye can track, guided by AI calculations predicting the exact trajectory needed to destroy military targets while minimizing but never fully eliminating civilian casualties. But even these calculations are imperfect. When systems misidentify targets, entire neighborhoods vanish in seconds, leaving survivors traumatized and angry, fueling cycles of revenge and escalation. Cyber warfare is another devastating pillar of the conflict. Hackers and AI systems infiltrate communication networks, power grids, water treatment plants, and hospitals. In some regions, people wake to discover entire cities paralyzed. Lights out, water stopped, heating systems offline, communication networks dead. Hospitals struggle without power, operating theaters darkened, ventilators silent. Even minor software errors and AI-directed systems can trigger catastrophic failures. AI-controlled weapons create moral dilemmas impossible to resolve. Machines do not distinguish between enemy combatant and innocent civilian in human terms. They follow threat signatures and probability calculations. Mistakes are inevitable, and humans are powerless to intervene quickly enough to prevent disaster. Drone strikes, once precise, occasionally annihilate entire neighborhoods based on faulty AI assessments. Governments issue apologies, but these words are meaningless to the families left behind. Hypersonic weapons make traditional defenses nearly useless. Missiles that travel 5 times faster than sound strike with near instantaneous effect. Detection systems struggle to respond. By the time an alarm sounds, the strike has already occurred. Cities that invested heavily in missile defense systems often survive only partially. Parts of their infrastructure are destroyed, leaving chaos in their wake. Biological warfare compounds the devastation. Labs release engineered pathogens targeting human populations, livestock, or crops, aiming to destabilize regions without direct conflict. Entire food chains collapse, crops fail. Contaminated water leads to mass illness. Hospitals, already crippled by cyber attacks and destroyed power systems, are overwhelmed. Survivors are left to flee or fend for themselves, often without access to clean water or medicine. Chemical weapons, though less common than in earlier wars, remain a threat. AI-guided drones release toxic gases in targeted areas, forcing civilians to flee or risk slow, agonizing deaths. Protective gear is often unavailable or malfunctioning, leaving entire populations exposed. The air itself becomes a weapon, unpredictable and deadly. Another terrifying dimension is space warfare. Satellites, once the backbone of global communication, navigation, and observation, are now battlegrounds. Laser systems, kinetic strikes, and electromagnetic pulses destroy or disable orbiting infrastructure. With GPS disrupted, navigation becomes chaotic. Military operations falter, civilian transportation collapses. Economies that rely on satellite coordination crumble in hours. Humans are forced to live in a world where machines decide survival. AI systems monitor populations, track resources, and sometimes enforce order with lethal efficiency. Even when humans attempt to intervene, their influence is limited. War becomes less about soldiers on a battlefield and more about algorithms outmaneuvering each other, predicting movements and calculating risk with terrifying speed. The psychological toll is immense. Cities under drone surveillance feel like cages. People cannot escape. Every shadow could hide a drone or automated patrol. Entire neighborhoods vanish without warning, leaving survivors paranoid, traumatized, and constantly vigilant. Fear becomes instinctual. Humans learn to anticipate AI behavior to survive. Traditional tactics, intuition, and strategy are increasingly inadequate against a world dominated by machines. Supply chains, once robust and reliable, collapse under constant attack. AI-guided logistical networks are sabotaged through cyber infiltration or destroyed infrastructure. Food, medicine, and essential supplies vanish. Refugees travel for miles only to find resources depleted or poisoned. Communities fracture as desperation overrides morality. Humans are pitted against both each other and automated systems designed to optimize destruction. Even warfare ethics are obsolete. Automated systems do not account for morality, culture, or nuance. Civilian casualties are calculated as collateral damage in probabilistic models. Decisions about who lives or dies are made by algorithms, sometimes with catastrophic consequences for the uninvolved. Entire cities may be evacuated, destroyed, or left exposed based solely on statistical probability. The war is not just physical, but digital. Cyber attacks can erase history, manipulate perception, and disrupt governance. Social networks collapse, leaving people isolated and vulnerable to misinformation. Deepfakes spread panic, portraying allies as enemies and fueling mistrust. Propaganda is no longer human-crafted, but AI-generated, perfectly tailored to manipulate emotions and behavior on a massive scale. By the second year, humans realize that survival requires adaptation. Civilians build fortified compounds resistant to both physical and digital attacks. Communities limit communication, distrust outsiders, and ration supplies with military precision. Skill sets evolve. Coding, mechanical repair, and AI literacy become survival tools. Life itself becomes a negotiation with technology, where understanding algorithms can mean the difference between life and death. World War III is no longer fought by humans in the traditional sense. It is a war of machines and humans forced to adapt to their own creations. Those who survive do so through intelligence, foresight, and adaptability, but humanity pays a steep psychological price. Cities are hollowed out, landscapes scarred, and every human is forced to navigate a battlefield where one misstep, one misjudged algorithm, can mean annihilation. The long-term impact is even more chilling. Humans begin to rely on machines for survival, surrendering autonomy for safety. Food production, energy distribution, defense, and medical care are all dependent on AI systems that could fail, be hacked, or be turned against them at any moment. Humanity becomes both survivor and servant in a world dominated by the very technology it created. Society in collapse, expanded. By the 6th month of World War III, global society is unraveling. Cities are no longer centers of life and culture, they are battlegrounds. Skyscrapers are hollowed shells, streets littered with rubble, and the air thick with smoke and dust. Civilians are trapped between automated defenses, rogue drones, and militant groups, forced to navigate a world where both human and machine are unpredictable. Local governments collapse. Law enforcement, once structured and reliable, is overpowered or paralyzed by cyber attacks. Communities self-organize into fortified zones, controlled by militias, survivalist groups, or AI-managed councils. Resources are rationed with military precision. Food, water, and medical supplies are scarce. Traditional trade is impossible. Every day becomes a calculation of risk versus necessity. Leave the safety of a compound to scavenge food or remain trapped and risk starvation? Trust erodes. Neighbors become competitors for dwindling resources. Miscommunication and misinformation spread, amplified by failing communication networks. Rumors of attacks, contaminated supplies, or traitorous individuals drive panic and violent preemptive action. Communities enforce strict surveillance, checking every individual for signs of weakness, illness, or disloyalty. Fear is no longer temporary. It is ingrained in behavior, instinctual, and relentless. Children born during the war grow up knowing nothing but survival. Education is minimal, often limited to practical skills: how to avoid drones, purify water, navigate ruins, and maintain weapons. Games become exercises in stealth and combat training. Emotions like empathy and curiosity are secondary to vigilance and cunning. Generations inherit trauma, and societal memory focuses on destruction rather than culture or art. Even technology, humanity's former ally, becomes a source of fear. Automated systems controlling food distribution, medical care, or energy grids are susceptible to failure or sabotage. Communities often fear AI as much as they fear human adversaries. People live in constant adaptation, learning to work around machines designed to optimize destruction, control resources, or defend territory. Environmental devastation: the environment bears the brunt of global conflict. Nuclear strikes leave radiation zones across continents. Cities are leveled, and surrounding ecosystems are poisoned. Fires ignite forests and grasslands, releasing massive amounts of CO. Air quality plummets, leading to respiratory crises among the survivors. Coastal regions suffer most. Flood defenses fail as bombings destroy infrastructure. Rising sea levels, worsened by climate change, flood devastated urban areas. Refugees flee inland, overwhelming forests, rivers, and temporary settlements. Wildlife, already stressed, either flees, adapts, or dies. Species extinction accelerates, and ecosystems collapse in ways that are impossible to reverse. Agriculture fails on a massive scale. Contaminated soil, irradiated fields, and disrupted water systems make traditional farming impossible. Vertical farms and AI-controlled greenhouses in fortified zones provide limited relief, but their energy-intensive operation makes them vulnerable to attacks or power failure. Millions face hunger, and famine spreads faster than the war itself. Diseases thrive in this chaos. Displaced populations, contaminated water, and collapsed healthcare systems create conditions for pandemics. Engineered pathogens, initially intended as weapons, mutate and spread beyond human control. Survivors must fight both war and disease, and every day becomes a battle for basic survival. Humanity's last stand. By the third year, organized global governance has largely ceased. Nations are fragmented into autonomous regions, each operating under its own survival rules. Some zones maintain technological support. Drones patrol, AI-controlled energy grids provide water and electricity, and fortified bunkers sustain life. Others descend into lawlessness, controlled by gangs, militias, or opportunistic warlords. Humanity adapts in extreme ways. Survival compounds are militarized, with every individual trained for combat, resource management, and AI system manipulation. Communities ration everything: food, water, medicine, and even human labor. Children are educated primarily in survival skills and practical intelligence. Life expectancy drops dramatically outside fortified zones, but within secure compounds, humans endure under strict discipline. Ethical norms collapse. Theft, murder, and deception are tolerated when necessary. Morality becomes relative, measured only by the probability of survival. Humans evolve in behavior and instinct, learning to anticipate threats from machines and fellow humans alike. Compassion is a luxury, fear is a constant. The psychological toll is immense. PTSD, anxiety, and depression are ubiquitous. Children grow up with little hope, hardened by necessity. Yet despite these hardships, humans persevere. Ingenuity, adaptability, and cooperation within small communities allow pockets of civilization to endure. Humanity survives not because it dominates, but because it learns to endure under extreme conditions. Long-term consequences. Decades after the outbreak, the planet is scarred. Major cities exist only as ruins or abandoned zones. Forests, deserts, and reclaimed lands cover once thriving urban areas. Oceans are polluted, coastlines reshaped by rising water and destroyed infrastructure. Earth has been remade, both physically and socially. Surviving humans live in isolated enclaves, heavily fortified and often semi-autonomous. Knowledge of pre-war civilization is incomplete. Digital records are fragmented or destroyed. Historical memory is passed orally or through damaged AI archives. The structure of governments has fundamentally changed. Regional leaders, human or AI, control resources and maintain order, but the global balance of power is gone. Cultural identity is reshaped by survival imperatives. Art, music, and literature persist only in modified forms, often focused on survival, history, and cautionary tales. Education emphasizes practical skills, critical thinking, and historical knowledge, but emotional development is secondary. Humanity has learned to survive, but at the cost of social richness. The psychological impact spans generations. Fear, hypervigilance, and trauma dominate human behavior. Trust is hard-earned and risk-taking is calculated with precision. Life continues, but humanity has changed. Technology is both ally and potential threat. Civilization persists, but it is fragmented, heavily managed, and shaped entirely by the harsh lessons of war. The ultimate question lingers: can humanity rebuild not just its cities, but its spirit? Civilization may survive, but the instinct for freedom, creativity, and spontaneous joy is endangered. World War III reshaped the planet and human nature itself. Survival is assured for those adaptable enough, but the cost is an existence defined by fear, calculation, and relentless vigilance. Have you ever wondered what would happen if AI went beyond our control? Not in a movie, but in real life? Today we explore that possibility.